In today's show, we're going to learn about model-driven apps calendar views. So this is something Juan showed me last week or this week. I don't know. Juan showed me recently because we were doing the model-driven class and it was really cool. So I thought I'd bring Juan on to do it. We're also streaming this one live to see what happens when I bring two people on. So it should be an interesting show if nothing else. But before we do any of that, first, here's our intro. All right, that was a little bit of dramatic pause, but hi, my name is Shane Young with Power Apps 911. Those guys. And today we're learning about model-driven apps calendar views, right? So obviously, I'm not the one to teach you how to do something cool and fancy in model-driven apps. I'm the one that goes, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that." So I am bringing on our resident model-driven expert, Mr. Juan Grijalba. Did I say that right? Pretty close, right?
Yeah, you got it right. Hit it right on the nail.
Um, and so Juan is going to walk us through all of this, kind of show us how easy it is to add a calendar view and how interactive. Like he showed the color coding and stuff. Like in search time, I see color coding. So I learned like 12 things when he showed me. So I thought, what an interesting topic. Juan, what led you down the path of wanting to learn about or figure out this whole calendar thing? Like what's the value here before you demo it?
It's just a common ask, right? If you go back to SharePoint, SharePoint has a native calendar view, right? All you have to do is create a simple list at start time, at end time, and whatever description, right? And you can turn that into a calendar view. So I started thinking, I'm sure there's got to be something like that in model-driven apps. So a little reading, I found it, and I thought it was an interesting thing to share with all of you guys.
Oh, very cool. Well, I look forward to you showing us how this all works. And also, just full transparency, Juan and I are doing this like live streaming at the same time. So if I screw something up, good news, I'll fix it in editing later. But right now, we're going to soldier on. So, Juan, let's switch over to your desktop and just take a look.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys like the end result, and then I'll show you guys how to build this from scratch. Basically, you have a view, right, where you have, like I said, a start date and end date, and then whatever task, you want to name, right? So if you wanted to visualize this in a calendar, all you have to do is go to show as, and then switch to calendar, right? This will automatically turn, you know, that view into a calendar, kind of like SharePoint, right? It kind of looks a lot like one of the SharePoint calendar view, right? But the cool thing is that you can color code events based on a color that we will set up on a choice column. So you will come in here. For example, you can say that this Shane demo is of a high priority. That's why it's color red, right? If you click on it, you will be able to get some quick details about this task, appointment, whatever you want to call it, right? And if you click on more details, right, you will be able to see additional details. So
well, that's
all of this,
super interesting, right? Because I've always wondered, I've seen with choice columns, you could set the colors, and I've never found a place it showed up. So this was like whoa, it finally does something. So I don't know. Sorry, I was easily impressed, but color coding was one that got me.
yeah, it is one that, I struggle with to find out, but I'll show you guys how easy it is. So you can also switch between month, if you want to look at the week view, or even if you want to take it down to the day level, right? You can see all your appointments. So as you can see, it's a pretty interactive calendar. And I'll show you guys how easy it is to create this, okay? So we're gonna start back, from makepowerapps.com, and we're gonna build this in a solution. If you're not familiar with solutions and none of this stuff, we do have a class where we go very, very in depth into all these situations. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new solution. I'm gonna call this calendar, live stream. All right. If you don't know what a publisher means, do not worry about it at this point. You select the default publisher. In my case, I have one for Power Apps 911, so I'm just going to choose that as my publisher, okay? So this is going to create our solution, which basically is a container of objects, right? We're going to store our table and our app all in the same solution, okay? First thing that you have to do when you create any app, right, is you need to have a table, right? You need to be able to store the information somewhere. So we're going to go to tables and then go to new and table, right? And in this table, we're gonna create basically 4 fields, right? So the first one is we're gonna name our table. So this is calendar, live stream. And we're gonna leave the options as is. I'm okay with all of this stuff. We're not gonna go in depth into any of these things, but we're gonna give the primary column. We're gonna call this our task name, right? This is where we're gonna store whatever the appointment is or task, Okay, so we're gonna make that our primary column. I'm okay with 100 characters for it, so I'm gonna click save. So that's gonna create our table and one column in our table, which is gonna store the task. Okay, now we're gonna create an additional field where it's gonna be our start date, right? So in order to create a calendar, you need a start date, right? And this is going to be, and it must be of the type date and time, okay? And if you go down to advanced options, make sure you leave this as user local, okay? Meaning that it's gonna store this on the database in UTC time. So whenever someone opens it up in a different time zone, they will be able to see the right time, okay? So I'm okay with this start date, okay? Next, I'm gonna create a separate column for the end date, right? And we're doing this live, so we're gonna go back to new and column, and it's going to be end date, right?
The
Again,
nice thing is I'll be able to edit out all the waiting times for the people that watch it post recording. But yeah, the live people, they get the live experience, right?
it is, yeah, it is what it is, right? Dataverse does a lot for you in the background, right? When you create a column like this, it's creating something in a database, SQL, so it is understandable. Okay, so we got the start time, we got the end time, right? Now we need to create something that we're gonna use to color code our appointments, okay? For that, we're gonna leverage this choice column. So I'm gonna call this appoint priority, right? Priority. And I'm going to leverage a choice column, right? I'm gonna select choice in here. And right now, we don't have a choice for this, so we're gonna create a new choice, right? So I'm gonna come in here and create a new choice. I'm gonna call this CH app priority. It is very hard to type when you're going live. So for example, we're gonna have a low priority. We're gonna have a medium priority for our appointments. And we're gonna have a high priority, right? And this is where the color coding comes into play, right? If you build the choice column, there's a button in here that says show color picker. So for my low appointment, I am going to make it yellow, okay? Medium appointment, I'm going to just make it blue. By the way, my colors are very ugly. You know, you can use the hex colors or RGBN. And for my high, I'm gonna do a red, right? Because high is always red. So I'm okay with this new choice. I assigned the colors low, medium, high. I'm gonna click save. And I'm gonna link my new choice column as a global choice to that one. So I'm gonna call this choice app priority. So low, medium, high. Okay, if you hover over this, you notice that it actually brings out the color, so which is pretty cool. This is new experience. And I'm gonna, oops, sorry, did I mess that up? Yep, sorry, this is what happens when you do this live. And choice app priority, okay? And I'm gonna leave default choice as none, right? I don't want a default to appear in there. And after this, so we created a table where we're gonna store our appointment information. The next thing is we're gonna very quickly modify the form so we can create new appointments. So inside the table, I go to forms. I'm gonna modify the main form. Usually what I do with this, I throw it in the header, the owner. So the tax name is required. We need to give it the start date, obviously. I'm gonna drag and drop the start date, drag and drop the end date, and we need the priority, right? And I'm okay with this. I'm gonna go ahead and publish my changes. Do we have
And
anyone watching live right now, Shane? Do we know?
yeah, there's been 4 or 5 people who've popped through.
Gotcha.
I think people are trying to figure out, right? And like you said, it's a Friday morning on Twitter, so the world, right? And I think Twitter was supposed to end today, right? Like it was end of times. They were turning off all the servers, so it's an interesting mix of people on Twitter this morning. But so far, so good. So keep
Gotcha.
plugging.
All right, now we're just gonna modify the view, right? I'm gonna modify the active public view, make sure we add the required fields. So it kind of looks nice.
Yeah, and and all this modifying the views and the forms and stuff, like I know you're going super quick here, but in the live class, right, we spent a whole half a day on modifying the view and the forms and all that stuff. So there's so much to learn here, but clearly we can only get so much in a quick little video here.
Yep, so I'm gonna do start date and then the priority. By the way, if you double click on this one or click on it, it will add it automatically. So that's all we have. And I'm gonna publish this, okay? So now we created a table, we have a view to view our data, we have a form to enter new data. Now all we need is an app, right? To be able to actually, view our data and input data. So now that we have this, I'm just gonna go to apps, again, all working within the solution. Go to new app, and we're going to build a model driven app. Okay, and this is going to be my calendar live stream app, right? Just leave this as is, click create. New app being created for us right on the spot. By the way, this is the new model driven app design experience. As you can see, it looks a lot better now, and it kind of resembles the Canvas experience. So I thought this was a nice addition. So we're gonna add a page, which means we're gonna add a table, right? Now we're gonna add our table, which I believe we call it calendar live stream, and I'm gonna show it in the navigation, right? And at this point, basically, we have the application. Right now we have, so I can go ahead and just publish this, and I'll show you that we have an application. We're gonna quickly add a new appointment, and then we'll come back, and then we'll add the calendar view. Okay, in order to add the calendar view, we have to go into Classic, right? But don't be scared of Classic. It's the same thing. It just looks a little bit more crowded.
Yeah, well, I'd love to jump in, but Buddy is being a complete terror this morning. I do not know what's up with him, but he is like currently barking at a decoration on one of my table. See? So
There we go. All right, so we're gonna create a new task. So I'm gonna call this, live demo. We're gonna start today. Let's say the appointment starts at what's right now, 9 a.m. So you can come and click this from 9:30, and this is going to end today, right? 11 a.m. So okay, I'm gonna make this, and then the priority, I'm gonna make this a low priority, right? I'm gonna click save and close. So now we have this in a regular list view, right? Ugly, right? Now we want to be able to convert this into a calendar. As you can see, the option to change views is not in here yet. Okay, so going back to our application, now we need to just close out of this, and we need to go back into Classic. So again, back in your solution, if you click on this three dots, call this the chicken kebab icon, and then click on Switch Classic. All right, this is the classic view for a solution, right? So you got to go to your entities, and in the top entity, at the top level of the entity, not in the views, if you click on it, right, then you will get this. You'll get this thing to go to controls. In here, you get to add additional controls at the top level of the entity. So I'm going to add a control. And then here, there's a control called calendar. Okay. So you just click add. In here, you can enable it for the web, for the phone, or for the tablet. In my case, I want this to be used in all different factors of my application. And in here, it basically tells you, map the fields that are required. So it requires a start date. So we created a start date. That's okay. It requires a description field, which we're using the task name. It requires an end date. So we're gonna use the end date. There's a duration field. It's not required, so do not worry about it. It automatically calculates the duration for you. And then the color, right? The color needs to be a choice field. In our case, we add the priority, right? That's where we have the different colors. And press OK. Once you're done binding the fields, make sure you click Save.
And one thing to like keep in mind as you look at the classic interface, you notice where Juan chose our choice column, it called an option set. Sometimes, knowing the old names for things is very helpful in this classic experience.
Good point. Thank you, Shane. And once you save, make sure you publish, right? And so this is done. Now, if I go back to my app, and I may have to refresh 1 or 2 times before this actually takes place. And there it is, right? So if you want to switch back between the old one, you can, you notice how this just popped up in here. So now you can just go back, and if you like the grid view, you can always go back to the grid view, or you can switch this to the calendar view. Another thing that I'm going to point out, because this is a live demo, by default, if you do this the first time, it's only going to show you the day view, right? If you want to be able to default this to be the month, all you have to do is go to your little gear and go to personalization settings, right? There's something in here called activities and default calendar. So if you want, I want mine to default to the month, but let's say I want this to always default to the week view first, switch this to the week. And then so when you first open up the calendar, now it will default to week. So you could do week, month, or day. So now I can just switch back and forth. I can go ahead and create a new one. I'm gonna call this, live demo 2. Start date, the 19. Quickly do, yeah, I'm okay with that. And then the 19, obviously finish, an hour later. I'm gonna make this the higher priority, so you'll see how this will get color coded to red.
So Juan, we had a quick question from the YouTube. Fernando wants to know, why is this calendar option so hidden?
That's a really, really good question. I don't have, I don't have a good answer for that, to be honest. It's just the way the product has evolved, right? You gotta understand, model driven's evolved from the Dynamics product. It used to be, or it is, a CRM sales product, right? So there's just like so many years of development and hidden tricks. That's just my answer for you guys, right?
Yeah, and I would just add, right, like I'm imagining this is just one of those features that is not used as much, so it's a lower priority, but at some point, Microsoft will most likely, like, I'm not speaking for them, but at some point they will most likely get it pushed and it will be available in the new UI. But since it's a lesser known feature, they are used less, it's slower to come, but just like security is still in the classic interface, there's still a lot of things that are just slowly moving, but hopefully one day it shows up.
Yes, sir. Basically, this is it, right? You could obviously take this to the next level, right? But obviously, this is a good start, and you can make this calendar, right, with related records. You can insert this in different places. Yep, we talked about. By the way, if you double click on a date, you can. So, for example, I want to create an appointment on the 23rd. I can just double click. It will take me to the form, and I can just go ahead and create the task, right? Again, from here. I'm not gonna worry about, this. So it's a lot of cool features, right? I plan on maybe making another video where I take this again to the next level. So probably in the 24th. Here it is. But as a start, I think this is a great addition, right? A cool feature to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One more question that just popped in. Is there any risk of losing this with an update? Once again, we can't speak for Microsoft, but I feel pretty confident they're not going to take the feature away from us at any point. I think it's just a matter of at some point it's going to get rolled into the new user interface. But I would not be uncomfortable putting this into an app today. I would feel like it's going to be there for as long as I can see going forward.
So. I agree. And, for Calero, has been asking Fernando pretty good questions. The control is already in the new UI. You can add it. So I'm just going to show a little preview. You can add it to a form. So I was playing, if you take my class, you'll be very familiar with the CRM. For example, I wanted to see all my appointments for Simona. So you can add this inside the form, and should filter down to, only the appointments for Simona. So it is already added in the new experience. It's not as easy to find, but there's a lot of great uses for this calendar, right? So there is.
Cool. All right. Well, let's see if I can figure out how to switch this back to me and you. Oh, almost. One more. Look at that. I'm so smart. I'm not. Well, Juan, I appreciate you coming on showing us that, right? I think it's interesting. And I think the fact that you kind of keep equating it back to the SharePoint calendar helps a lot of people like myself bridge the gap, right? We came from a SharePoint world. We had InfoPath. We hated InfoPath. We got through it. Now we've moved into this Power Apps world and we like it. But then now we're realizing to really build large scale stuff, we kind of have to keep evolving and get away from SharePoint and into Dataverse. And so if we get to Dataverse, we get to model driven apps. And, the more of those connections that we can help people bridge things they're already doing today, I just think it makes it easier for people to connect those dots. So appreciate you showing that.
No problem, guys. Glad, you guys will be seeing a lot more of me, hopefully.
Hopefully, right? Juan is petitioning to do more model-driven content. So what do you guys think? Do you want to see more model-driven content? If you do, right, leave us some comments below. Obviously, like leaving comments right now doesn't work, but leaving comments in the later version, whatever, you get the idea. But let us know what you want to see. Right? Juan's got a training class coming up at the end of January. His last one sold out, so I'm guessing the January one's going to sell out too. So, but yeah, I guess with all that, I'm just going to say thanks and have a great day. Hey, me again. Before you go, click on the subscribe button, right? Join the list of 100,000 plus people that have subscribed already. Or if you need any help, right, check us out at Power Apps 911. We do big projects, little projects, we do training, we do everything, and we can help you. Or if you want to see more videos, you probably do, then just click on the playlist above. Cool. Thanks and have a great day.